popcorn. Welcome once again to another installment of the Unwatched Pile. I'm Stephen Billings, and of course, along with me, as always, Andrew Cabral. What's up?
What's up, man? I'm just making sure I'm within our little boxes we put up here. I'm never used to fitting myself in a box. I don't like enclosed spaces.
The Blu-rays that we are floating, the floating Blu-rays.
Right. I'm so used to being like in the middle of the screen, so I have all of the extra room to be all flamboyant and stuff and expressive. And now I'm like looking at a tiny box of emotions, a glass case of emotions.
You gotta have T-Rex hands.
Right, exactly. You gotta be very specific. Make sure where's my camera. I only have one camera, so it's camera one and only.
Just make sure you're in the middle of the shot, and then you're good.
Yeah, I'm always overcorrecting myself. But we are back here once again for another episode of the Unwatched Pile, coming to you late in the summertime, if you're here in the US. Late in the summertime, the dog days of summer. On what is this? Is this the last Monday in August?
Yes.
Pretty sure it is.
I always try to jump for that last week.
Yes, it is. The fall is right around the corner.
I love it.
But we are back here once again for episode number 27. And as usual, Stephen, we have a guest that joins us, which is pretty great. It's someone who's been here a number of times before. I think this may be his fourth time. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Who knows, man?
I'm losing count of all the people we have on.
Well, yeah, and that's Mr. Tony Michas. What's up, man?
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Thank you for having me on, Stephen and Andrew. Means the world.
Of course. We always love having you, Tony. Of course, everybody in the chat's popping in. Josephina saying hey to all of us.
I know Josephine very well.
Of course, she's all over the place. She's visiting all the podcasts.
A very loyal viewer.
Oh, yes.
Commenter.
Just finished reading Meet at the Arc at 8 by Ulrich Hub. I gotta add it to my watch list. I've been doing so much reading lately over the summer. It's been crazy. Yeah, I haven't been reading. I've been doing the fake reading, which is listening to audiobooks.
That's fine. That still counts.
That's all I have time for. So
that's what I do, because I do a lot of driving and I listen to audiobooks all the time. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm reading Game of Thrones for the first time right now. Reading Game of Thrones. But before that, I reread, because I read them all when they first came out, Harry Potter, and I'd never listened to the audiobooks. Loved it, but then I was pissed off because then I realized they're about to come out with these new audiobooks of Harry Potter with a voice cast and everything, and all crazy expensive. I'm like, now I'm just gonna have to buy them and read them again. Great. So, but yeah, welcome back, Tony. Thank you for joining us. Oh yeah, we always love having you. And of course, if you've never listened or watched this show, you should watch, because as Doug said last time, we got this cool background and everything, floating Blu-rays. You should watch. But if you don't have time, you can listen on the podcasts feeds. And but on this show, we get into the unwatched pile of all of our collections, because sometimes we buy things and we haven't seen them. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what collectors do, because we just want to keep taking things that we see that look awesome and we want to put them in our collection. And when we're like, we'll get around to it one day. So what we're doing in this show is getting around to it. We're taking one of them films, we're watching them, we're coming here to discuss our first time watches. And then we're like, hey, you know what I like doing? Double features. Double features are fun. Triple features are fun too, but that'd make the show probably 30 minutes long.
At least an extra half an hour, 30 minutes long.
Maybe we'll do a triple feature day one day, but for now it's a double feature show. And so what we do is we match in our collections something we've watched with the film we just watched. It's a first time watch, and we have fun with it. So we're going to do that again here. And before we do, of course, more people are jumping in. Dustin Putman, your opponent for the thing that nobody knows about tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it.
And we got Super Marcy.
Marcy's a dear friend of mine in Melbourne.
I was going to say, yep. She's frequent on your podcasts, right?
Oh yeah, she also has her own, the Super Network, as well as she does a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I know Marcy. We're Facebook friends, and I follow her on various other social media outlets and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Super Network, the King podcast, the Ozpoint cast. There's so many. And I believe Marcy has her own private one called After Dark, which is adult conversations for adult films, so which is not bad.
I think she does
Cool.
Tubi Tuesdays too. Isn't that
Yeah, she
hers as
does.
well? Yes.
Yeah, she
Tubi.
does. As
Who
I said,
doesn't love?
she does a lot.
Who doesn't love Tubi?
Tubi has saved me many a times on chasing labels.
Exactly.
Trying to hunt down stuff.
Well, Marcy, you do a lot of stuff. We need to get you on one day. We got to get you on the Unwatched Pile, any of the shows. So just if you contact Andrew, whoever, I'm the booker. I usually
I'll say, don't talk to me. Talk to Steven. He's the social one.
Reach out to me and we'll get you hooked up on one of the shows. But Josephine's popping in with her watches recently. She watched some Von Sternberg, but maybe Doug influenced her because Doug did some Von Sternberg.
Silent Von Sternberg too.
Yeah.
So that's like pre Marlene Dietrich Von Sternberg stuff from early on.
Also, she's got some more here. Street Fighter 74.
Oh wow.
That's the movie that they're watching in, oh my goodness, the Tony Scott film that I can't remember why. Not True.
Not True Romance.
The one with Christian Slater.
True Romance.
True Romance. Yeah. When he meets Patricia Arquette at the movie theater, he's doing a marathon of those movies. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's True Romance.
Yes.
Rounders. That's the one with Matt Damon. Matt Damon,
Ed Norton, and you've got John Malkovich doing the most craziest Russian accent you've ever seen. Which, if you listen to Matt Damon talk about it, they didn't know it was going to happen until they started shooting.
What's You and Me sounds familiar. You know what You and Me is? 38.
No. It does sound familiar.
It does sound familiar.
It sounds so familiar.
Maybe I'm just thinking of the Lifehouse song.
Oh,
you and me.
That's a blast from the past.
People. Oh, yeah, I know. Josephine loves it when I sing, so I figured I'd do that for her. But that's the comments we got for now. So let's get into it, guys. As always, we start with our guest on the Unwatched Pile. And Tony, what did you bring forward as your first time watch?
My first time watch is something I've been really looking forward to since it was announced, and yeah, it is a Hammer movie, and the Hammer movie that I chose is Blood Orange from 1953. Yes, from 1953. It is a basically a classic black and white whodunit. It was different. It's not like the usual Hammer films that I'm used to because but I do love the other standard Hammer films that come out. But now with the new UK releases, the John Gore Studios company that released these new beautiful deluxe sets, they're releasing more and more of the obscure stuff, which is fantastic. This film is about basically a jewelry heist gone wrong, and around the how can you say, and around the setup of the story, we see this detective who just who gets involved, and then surrounding that, because it's a very convoluted story. Like, it's a lot of multiple things happening at once, and yeah, like there's murders happening, but the murders are by women. The murder victims are women who wear specifically blood orange dresses. And then it just goes it's like a, how can I say it? How can I describe it? It's like a mishmash of it confuses the audience, but then it all makes sense in the end. So yeah, it is a very different Hammer movie from what I'm used to. But and of course it's directed by the great Terence Fisher, who's directed some of the best Hammer films ever made, in my opinion. And yeah, this has a cast. I've never heard of many of these people before, to say the truth. The cast includes Tom Conway, Mila Parley, Naomi Chance, Eric Pullman, Andrew Osborne, and Eileen Way. So it is a very different type of Hammer movie. But if you like whodunits, definitely a curiosity piece. And this one, I do recommend you to watch it, because if you're a Hammer fan, you can't go wrong. It's good. It's really, I liked it, but it's a different Hammer film for sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I've discovered, especially through the indicator sets, I discovered a lot of great Hammer that was not your typical horror. like the one that always comes to mind is the one. Don't take candy from a. I think don't take candy from a stranger. I think or something
that's
like
on
that.
that's on the volume 2 box set. Never take candy from strangers.
Yeah,
that
God,
is
it's amazing. Yeah.
one of the best thrillers, dramas from Hammer ever. It's incredible.
Oh yeah. So it's definitely not. It's not a company that you have to just pigeonhole into horror.
Right.
So they definitely branched out and did some cool stuff. Of course, you talking about Terrence Fisher. He had one of his films get a big, I think, release announcement from, I think it was Hammer, the Curse of Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is getting another release. So
It's getting a double release. It's
Double
getting
release.
a 4K from Hammer, and it's getting a 4K from Warner Archive as well. And there's some crossover with special features, but the Hammer set is massive. Like all kinds of extra goodies, tons of special features. I would say kudos also to Warner Archive for actually putting out another 4K set. You know what I mean? And whatnot. And it's really yeah, it's kind of interesting because when you think Hammer, automatically people go to Hammer horror, which I think is kind of where they got their reputation from in like movie history and just film buffs in general. But Hammer themselves, like, is like an actual company that I think still exists to this day, literally producing movies. And then like the Hammer horror was just kind of like an offshoot of them because they wanted to get in on the Hammer on the horror game, and then they started doing all of their own versions of like the classic movie monsters, like Frankenstein, like Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee, and all those other like Christopher Lee Dracula movies, and they did their own mummy movies as well. It was a rolling cast of like Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, people like that. That's kind of where they got their reputations from as actors. But the movie that Tony's talking about is like it's them doing a film noir, like a British film noir, like a Sherlock Holmes detective story centered around a murder that happens, and it has to deal with it within the world of like fashion and dresses making and stuff like that. Like that's the initial incident, and then like Tony was saying, with any film noir, there's always red herrings and false avenues and false accusations and clues that lead you this way and that way. And that's kind of what the movie is. It's for me, the movie was a little it was okay. It was a little kind of all over the place in terms of like all of those things, maybe a little bit too British. Because I'm so used to like American film noir, which is so like tight and specific and has that sense of style and pacing. Whereas this one felt different. I don't know if for those of you out there who've seen it, you know, back me up or not back me up on that. But it also has another title to it. It's not called. It's also called
Stop 3 for Murder or something.
Yeah, it's
like
Three
that.
Stops to Murder.
Three Stops to Murder. That's the American title.
Yes, that's the American title. I don't know which one I like better, Blood Orange or Three Stops to Murder.
Oh, Blood Orange is better.
Blood Orange sounds a bit better because of the dress, because of the dresses.
Well, the thing is, the movie's in black and white, so you never see the Blood Orange dress. So it doesn't quite work. Also,
I guess I get that. Yeah.
But there is a colorized version of the movie I found popping around, which looked odd to me. And I'm like, there's no way this is a colorized version of the movie, because they've gone back and they've colorized a lot of black and white films, which is kind of sacrilegious. You know, there was a whole movement in the 80s with like Ted Turner wanted to go back and colorize like classic Warner Brother films and whatnot, and people had to come out against it, like George Lucas and Martin Scorsese. It's a whole big thing. I'm going on a whole history rant here, but so it's like a British film noir from the 50s, done by Hammer, done by like the guy who does all the good Hammer films, Terrence Fisher. So that's just my take on it.
So I'm getting the sense that this is kind of middle of the road film noir from Hammer. It's not crazy great, but it's got some interesting stuff in it.
Has some great moments, definitely, but other than that, it was okay. It's like it's good to see a Hammer British film noir, but it was okay. That's my final words on it. It was okay.
All right. Well, I guess that means your double feature recommendation will have to be strong. It will have to be a strong pairing.
I think it will be.
All right. We'll get back around to you. All right, so over to Andrew. He is going to bring us. I can't wait to hear what he thinks about this.
This has been a long time coming.
This is
for me
one that
personally.
I this is one where I feel like I'm in the minority about this movie, liking this movie. Most people don't like this movie that much.
After watching it and then looking on Letterboxd and stuff like that, you may be right on that, because a lot of people don't particularly view this film fondly.
Yeah.
And the movie is Steven Spielberg's 2011 film, War Horse. And this is a movie that I have literally had in my collection, this Blu-ray, since 2012 when it came out. So this is, 13 years in the making? Completely forgot that I had this to do for the Unwatched Pile. This release itself, I think, is the only release of this movie, at least in Region A land. And this came out so long ago that the digital copy of this movie is on a disc that's in here. So it was before they had the digital copy codes and all that kind of stuff. It's still the time where they would put digital copies on disc, because digital copies were kind of a newish thing in the early 2010s. But this movie, like I said, is a Steven Spielberg film. It came out the same year as another Spielberg film, The Adventures of Tintin. And I feel like that movie and this movie kind of go hand in hand, in the sense like people tend to
they cancel each other out.
But they just kind of move past it to like other stuff. Like, because in 2012, Lincoln came out with Daniel Day-Lewis, and it's a historical piece, and that's what people really look upon more favorably with Steven Spielberg, given his history. Coincidentally, this movie is also a historical piece. It's based on a novel from 1982 set during World War I, and it centers around, I should say, this horse. For the lack of a better term, a horse that becomes a war horse, if you will, and you are following the life of this horse from the time it's born to when it's sold at market to its first owner, which is this young actor here, who I think was in like his second role of all time. I actually got the cast list up here. Speaking of cast list, it's a Rolodex in here. Jeremy Irvine is the young actor in here, and he is the one who takes the young horse, raises it, loves it as it's, like they're connected. They're best friends, if you will. Think of like a boy and his dog and whatnot, or something like that. And he lives in kind of an impoverished situation. His father is an alcoholic who has a war wound from the Boer War, which was in the late 19th century war for England and South Africa, I believe. And so his father can't really provide for the family. The farm is not really doing well. The person who owns the land is David Thewlis, who's just a slimy jerk in this movie. And the father ends up having to sell this horse because World War I starts in 1914. He sells it to the cavalry. And you see this horse kind of go from the good guy's side to the bad guy's side. You see the various people whose lives it impacts along the way, ultimately just kind of going on this existential journey for this horse, and also for the people who it encounters. You see their little stories along the way. Now, I think what this movie negatively, I keep seeing over and over again, is this movie is heavily overly sentimental. Like, even for Spielberg, we know Spielberg is a heavily sentimental director if you know his work and his career, and people brought that up all the time in every review I saw, and whatnot. And I kind of get it. It is repetitiously overly sentimental. We've talked about this many times before, Stephen. Manipulative filmmaking and things like that. The director playing with the audience in terms of like manipulating their emotions. Feeling sad, feeling happy, all this kind of stuff. This movie definitely does that. It seems it does it repeatedly.
Well, let me ask you this.
It didn't bother me a lot. I'll say that.
Well, but let me ask you this though. Does it only feel that it's overly sentimental because it's a horse? It's because it's an animal. It's because we're putting an animal in a lot of dangerous.
I was just gonna say.
It's because there's an animal in a lot of dangerous situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, you feel for the animal. But if it's a person, if this is
it's
Saving
different.
Private Ryan, we're not like, oh, this is super sentimental because these people are in dangerous situations. So
I was actually going to bring up that you're speaking my language, because I was going to bring up one of the reasons why I didn't watch this movie for so long is because I have a specific sensitivity to seeing animals in dangerous situations in movies. You know,
My wife is the same way. She won't.
yeah, like
She's
it
not. She's
bothers
like,
me
I want to go
greatly.
see Good Boy, but she's like, is this dog? I don't know if the dog's gonna get hurt.
There's a whole website is like, does the dog die? Where you can look up if a dog dies in a movie or not to prepare yourself for it, because people have a sensitivity towards that. I'm also an incredibly empathetic person, so I automatically kind of feel emotions and whatnot. But this movie definitely has those moments, and the thing is with this movie is every time those moments kind of come up, there's always kind of a deus machina moment where something happens that gets out of the peril of the situation, and it's done so repeatedly to the point where it seems kind of otherworldly, like it seems like almost fantastical, like a fantasy, if you
Sure.
will, because it keeps happening over and over again. And it's like, there's no way that would happen. There's no way that these two people would meet at this specific time and act this certain way in this specific moment. But you got to give yourself over to the fantasy of the movie, of the kind of almost fictional setting of the movie magic, like we've talked about. We just talked about it recently on Movies Down Memory Lane with Field of Dreams, where you kind of have to give yourself over to the magic of cinema. And I think you have to do that with Warhorse to kind of appreciate it. Now, when it comes to the positives of the movie, it's Spielberg, so the production is kind of amazing. John Williams has a great score. You know what I mean? The acting I thought was really, really good. Like I said, there's a Rolodex of actors in here. Emily Watson, David Thewlis, Benedict Cumberbatch. At one point, Tom Hiddleston's in the movie, and this was right after he was in Thor, before like the MCU really exploded. Toby Kebbell is in the film as well, kind of an underrated actor in my opinion. And yeah, there's just a bunch of people show up in here that you may not even think of at the time, like Eddie Marsden, like character actor, a British character actor. But yeah, the 2/3 of this movie is a war film, like a legitimate World War I war film, and we don't see a lot of movies set in World War I, not in the last 20 to 30 years or so. I won't mention a couple just in case people think I'm going to pair it up with it. But I'm just saying that you don't see a lot of movies depicting that war, and this movie goes for it. You know what I mean? Like it gets you in there from time to time. You see the trench warfare, you see the barbed wire, you see no man's land sequences. I mean, and they're grand spectacle sequences like Spielberg likes to do in his movies. So I don't know why so much people have kind of maligned this film, or they just put it in kind of like in the overall oeuvre of Spielberg. They just pluck it in the middle somewhere, where this kind of has a lot of Spielbergian things in it that people love in other movies, but I guess just not this one. Thought it was odd, but I liked the movie. I actually really liked it.
Good. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like my favorite Spielberg movie. I just never got it. I never understood why people dislike. Now I can understand why people dislike something like Big Fat BFG Giant.
BFG, Big Friendly Giant.
That movie's not good. Unless I guess you're a fan of that.
Even Bridge of Spies, people tend to talk about a little bit more than this.
And I think Bridge of Spies isn't as good as War. I think Warhorse is better than Bridge of Spies.
Thing is, I really like The Adventures of Tintin.
I do too. Yeah, I like it.
There was supposed to be another one of those movies that Peter Jackson was supposed to direct, but it never happened.
Yeah.
Because I think he was a producer on that. I think he did mocap work for that movie as well.
Yeah. He did.
Well, Tony, have you seen it? Yeah, I'm obviously upset because people don't like this movie. So, any thoughts on that? Please don't not like the movie, please.
No. I actually saw it theatrically when it came out, and I did like it, but it's definitely not. It's not your typical Spielberg movie. Definitely, it's something completely different. But I don't know. I think my only criticism of it is it's a little too long at 146 minutes.
It is long. It is long.
That's probably the only thing. But the interesting thing is, here in Sydney, they always do a stage play of Warhorse at the Sydney Opera House. And I've never seen the stage play, but the stage play I think is around 75 to 80 minutes. But the horse on stage is basically a wooden skeletal horse with people using mechanics for the legs. So you see the horse run and you see the curtain in the background. move, which actually does look pretty good for a theatrical play. But with this one, I agree with you, Andrew, about John Williams' score. It's one of his best, definitely. And the cast, great British cast, as you said, Emily Watson, Benedict Cumberbatch, David Thewlis. Yeah, terrible character he played. But yeah, I saw it theatrically. I really liked it. I have that same Blu-ray as well. And yeah, but I am with you, gentlemen, about the watching. It's hard to watch stuff with that harm animals. I can't. It's hard for me. Like sometimes I have no choice but to watch it, because I have to discuss it in some way. But it is hard for me to watch stuff with animals. Like humans getting murdered, no issues. I know it says that does not sound good.
Everybody's got their sensitivities. I mean, like I didn't used to have as much of an issue with. I know this is going to sound bad, but like anytime children are put in some kind of peril now that I have a child myself, it's harder for me. Like when
of course,
like if it's a little bit more like Insidious, where like you see it and you see a child get hurt or something, it's like too much for me now. Now with animals, like I don't want to see animals get hurt, but like, I don't have quite that sensitivity. But it's, I get it. It just, that wouldn't be my reason. The thing I always heard was how sentimental the movie is. And I think that like nobody does sentimentality as good as Spielberg.
That's true.
And I think that nobody really does sentimentality because people are scared of it being too sentimental. Like I think people stay away from it these days more than they should. I think that genuine like old shucks sentimentality is something we need more of, I think, and that we've completely lost it to like, let's make everything so realistic and dark. And so like I love the film. I have a good time watching it there, even with it being as long as it is. I just kind of get caught up in the story. Maybe it's because I grew up loving the movie Homeward Bound so much.
There's my predilection for that, like kind of what you're saying, is because of movies like Homeward Bound. Where there would be like traumatizing animal pictures from like the 80s and 90s, like what I grew up with, like Homeward Bound, All Dogs Go to Heaven, things like Land Before Time, An American Tale, these like tragic, harsh children's stories always like kind of rattled me at such a young age. That made me feel so many feelings.
Yeah. So I think like I get it, but it's just I don't know. That don't bother me, and I think that it's a really well made. Horse movie. Like nobody makes horse movies. I mean, the last one I remember before this one is like, what's that? What is it? Black Beauty?
Yeah, Black Beauty and things like that.
All the pretty horses in that a horse movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's got horse in the tail.
One of my favorite horse films will always be 1979's The Black Stallion. That one I grew up on. But as you said, Andrew, with even animated films, they have the power to really affect you. Like there's two movies that I always think of when it comes to animal violence, when it comes to animated films, that is. Of course, the harshest one is Watership Down. That's traumatizing. But the next film that Martin Rosen did that was even more traumatizing to me was The Plague Dogs.
Yes.
That one, you actually see dogs getting electric shock treatment, and that is excruciatingly hard to watch. Even though it's animated, it's still hard to watch.
There's that infamous scene in Neverending Story where the horse is getting brought into the quicksand, the bog.
Yeah.
Still traumatizing to this day, even though that movie's 40 years old.
40 years old. I can't watch it. Like I don't know if you ever saw the Imprint group announcements. We showed off the pictures and all that. There was a photo card in the limited edition package that said that showed the horse in the sinking down. I couldn't do it. I couldn't see it.
I see that come up. I see that come up in memes. I see that come up in like GIFs and clips, and I just see people commenting under it. Still too soon. It's still too soon to be experiencing this. Can't
absolutely.
Do it.
All right, guys, that is Andrew's pick, Warhorse. We will of course come back around to see what he paired that with. So now we're on to me. I told Andrew, when I decided to do this film, I was like, dude, like I've been holding on to this for a long time because it's one of my favorite filmmakers that I have not watched these films yet. And now that we've finally gotten some recent announcements that we're getting more of his films, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and watch these. Now I can let these go because they're not the last thing I can watch of his until somebody releases more of it, because his films are so scarce on physical media and online. They're just, and if they're online, they're so in such bad condition to watch. So the filmmaker I'm talking about is Satyajit Ray, and I decided to watch the first film in this Eclipse set, which is called Home in the World. This film right here, Home in the World, came out in 1984. And it's about this rich landowner who is kind of non-traditional when it comes to how he his marriage to his wife. They're very, in traditional marriage, it's very much the wife does, stays at home, does all the things like that, doesn't get very educated and everything like that. But in this story, the landowner, he's very non-traditional, and he, makes sure that his wife gets education, gets a lot more introduced to a lot of things that most women of their culture would not. She learns English. She learns how to sing, do all these things, learn piano. And so when the main part of the story takes place, he introduces her to a friend of his who is a kind of, wouldn't say cult leader, but he's a political leader.
Yeah, political revolutionist.
Yeah, he's trying to push new ideas to change the politics of India, which at the time, this is set in like the early 1900s. I think it was like 1907 or something like that. And at the time, the British government was very heavily influential to their society, and so a lot of the goods that were being flowing into India were from other countries. But the friend who's the politician, he wants to change that by trying to make everything more like in-house. Does that sound familiar to you? Like today's politics, where our president's trying to say, hey, let's cut off the world and take it all home. Well, that shows you how relevant this film is. So she gets introduced to him, kind of starts to influence her, and then she kind of gets pulled into what he's doing. And then there's a little bit of a romance, love triangle-ish kind of thing going on. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But the husband kind of lets her do it. He knows that this stuff's going on, but he wants to allow her to make choices. And so that's what makes it a really interesting dynamic for the characters, and also just how the story ends up and where it goes and stuff. And it's a very, for the big ideas that are in it. And this is one of the things that Satyajit Ray does so great, is that he has these big ideas, but he can make the movies really intimate and small while dealing with them ideas. So I loved it. Like I thought like this is one of the last films he did. I think this was like his second to last film before he passed away. I think in 91 or 92. And he was still killing it, even that late in life. And this was actually, I think, one of my. I might have seen Distant Thunder. I think can't remember if that was in color or not. But this might have been my first color Satyajit Ray film, because everything else I'd seen of his was in black and white. But he his cinematography, he does the music in the film as well, and it's just grips you. I mean, and one of the main actors, the one that plays the politician, is kind of one of his main actors. Andrew, you'll have to help me with pronunciations. Samatri.
Yes, Chatterjee. Yeah.
Yes, he's and the one. He was Apu.
Yeah, he was Apu in the third Apu trilogy film, and then he was in The Coward as well.
He was in countless
Another
of his films.
another
Countless.
of his films.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a kind of a very large movie. It's a large scale film, like just conceptually, but
Yeah.
told on a very small scale.
Literally, essentially inside of this
This guy's house.
This mansion.
Really.
I mean, and then every once in a while you go outside of the house for a little bit, but essentially it's mostly in the house.
It very much is, and because it's dealing with a huge political movement in India in the early 20th century of the Swadeshi, who's this guy is a leader of, and it's basically the Indian independence movement. India, of course, later on, about a decade after the events in this movie, Mahatma Gandhi would become involved with the Indian, independence movement. Eventually, they would break away. They would get independence in 1947, 1948, somewhere around there. But this movie is kind of dealing with a lot of political, cultural, themes and discussions. There are many scenes in this movie, like Steven was just saying, that takes place inside of this house of people just talking.
Yeah.
And these scenes go on for like 10, 12, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it's very small scale.
Satyajit Ray knows how to talk about ideas and really delve into and like reach them ideas and like pull the layers back and like keep you invested.
Getting invested in a lot of specifically Indian cultural stuff, but you can extrapolate it out to a more, like Stephen was saying, a more contemporary level, a more macro level in terms of any people looking to strive for independence from a foreign nation. At the time, Great Britain basically owned India. It was their colony, you could say. And, like anything like that, like we saw here in the United States, wanting to break away, but there's a lot of complications in doing so. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Mahatma Gandhi later on was famously, doing things in a non-violent way. He had this whole policy of non-cooperation, non-cooperation protests and stuff like that, where other people had a more violent take on it. We saw this happen with the civil rights movement in the 60s, different type of fight for independence, different type of fight for rights and freedom and stuff like that. You had MLK's version of it, you had Malcolm X's version of it, and you see how they were radically different from a certain point of perspective. But here, like you're saying, Stephen, there's a lot of just discussions going on here, and then he's also riffing on women's roles within Indian society, which we've seen in his other movies.
Oh yeah, it's I was going to say it's something he comes back to a lot.
He did that in Charulata. He did that even in his Apu trilogy as well. So like he's kind of riffing on like things he's already gone through in his all the previous movies.
The big city.
Yeah. And it's like, so he's really kind of playing all the hits in this movie, and he's doing it at a cool scale.
I think she plays. I mean, obviously, is the center of the movie because her character plays somebody who's very impressionable. She is given more freedom than most women in her culture. So then when she gets that freedom, she runs with it and gets tempted by even her husband tells her, this guy is known for being kind of a, he like sleeps with women. He like gets women like him. He sings. He's a singer.
Yeah,
he's
a smooth operator, as some would say. He's knowing smooth that, like silk. He knows how to. Well, when you're a political leader of any kind, and this movie's probably commenting on that, you know how to play people. You know how to play people on every level. You can see their weaknesses. You can see, just how to rope them into what you're saying to take advantage of them. We see it all the time. Every campaign, election season that comes around, we see these things.
And as much as that part of it's interesting, I found the husband character to be one of the most interesting parts of the movie too, because he's knowingly throwing his wife into this situation.
He wants her to be able to experience life in multifaceted ways, the good and the bad. And he famously wants her to have a life in the house and outside of the house too.
Yeah, and make decisions on her own.
And decisions have consequences.
Exactly. Yeah. So I found that interesting because I think for some people they could look at this situation being like, well, it's his fault. He just let her, basically
let her have an affair. Let her, give this guy money for his political, revolution and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like people make those decisions all the time, those bad decisions all the time. Or questionable decisions. So the movie is playing on a lot of it. I'm very surprised this movie has not gotten a proper Blu-ray
I was going to say,
yet.
I really hope, because they are putting out Blu-rays of Eclipse sets now.
Yeah, your timing could not be better.
I mean, like, I'm obviously going to upgrade this, but I really wish this, specifically so far, this film would get its own release. Because haven't they done that already before? They did like
there's precedents. Yeah,
Tuki Buki, I think, was one of them that got it.
Well, they did it with the Bergman films, the early Bergman films. All those that were in that Eclipse set, they all got Blu-ray upgrades and now are in the Bergman box set. So there's precedent for that already. Yeah. And you, like I said, your timing is so good, is because they're bringing back the Eclipse series with number 47, which is going to be a Blu-ray. And not only is it a Blu-ray, but it's going to have restorations in it. Beforehand, I believe these DVDs really didn't have restorations. They were just kind of putting these movies on disc and kind of just giving it to us in, obviously, digital, DVD quality, but they weren't putting like extras on here. They weren't giving, any type of restorations and whatnot. But I'm glad they're bringing Eclipse sets back.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of a lost asset from Criterion.
Yeah.
That is true. Unfortunately, I have not seen Home in Their World, but with Satyajit Ray, as you said, you can't. His filmmaking is incredible. Like, my favorite movie of his will always be Patha Panchali. I've always loved Patha Panchali, part of the Apu trilogy. But this, from what you both have said about this one, I found out too late. I think it is on the Criterion channel, which I do have, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch it because I found it a little too late.
No,
it's not a short film. I'll tell you that.
No, I saw it's like
it's around 2 hours, a little over 2 hours.
It's 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Oh, that's not too bad.
And you can feel it too, because it is an older style of filmmaking where things are very patient and slower paced, as opposed to more modern filmmaking. But it's you appreciate that if you're in tune with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really do want to watch it. But with Pacha Panchali, I can watch that over and over again. Of course, there's the other films from the Apu trilogy. Rai has a specific type of ethic in his work. Like, you see the way he shoots movies and the way his characters are in the majority of his films. It's great to see in Indian cinema, especially. But yeah, unfortunately, that movie I haven't seen. Would love to talk more about it, but I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay, all good, Tony. I didn't watch your movie, so I got you back. Okay,
no worries.
No, but I agree. I think I became such a fan after watching the Apu trilogy and just haven't stopped since. And I think the thing I love about his filmmaking is his characters. I think he does such a great job at fleshing out his characters and making you kind of like get on their level and feel for them and like really want to like see their journey to the end. And I love all the Apu trilogy films, but I really love the third film. I really love the ending where he, he finally, meets a woman, and then he goes off and starts a life, and then he has a child, and then there's like complications with that. I love that part of it. And I'm one of the weird people that like the third Before movie. I like Before Midnight a lot.
So do I.
Yeah. So he's so great. I'm glad I was able to watch. Now I'm going to have to keep going through this set. I won't use them all in Unwatched Pile. I need to go ahead and just watch them. But I can't wait for what apparently is, I hope eventually coming to the Criterion. Was it the Dark? Was it the Forest? Something with the forest. I can't remember what it was called. One of his films coming. It's got a really great.
It showed at Cannes.
I'm gonna find it here in a second. But it's got a restoration that's going around, and I definitely need to see it. Here it is. Days and Nights in the Forest.
That's what it is.
So, and it's a highly rated, one of his highly rated films.
Oh, nice.
I know they showed it at Cannes, and now they're showing it in like a theatrical release, which we've seen Janus films do that before, where if they get like a 4K restoration of something, they'll exhibit it in like theaters around the world or festivals, and then it'll get a Blu-ray or 4K release.
I'm really hoping this is the sign of more Satyajit Rai's coming out. Like it's just been so long. We got Devi like 3 or 4 years ago, and then nothing. And I know that they got all the rights to these films. It's just the restoration process has been so lengthy. And then I think COVID kind of stalled some things.
Yeah.
But here's to hoping more comes. But let's go right back around to Tony. Tony's going to tell us what he paired with Blood Orange.
Okay. This was a tough decision, but I thought I was thinking, do I do another Hammer film? Because I'll give you a bit of an exclusive right now. We are doing an episode on Imprint Cast about Hammer films very, very soon. So I gotta go get all that done. I thought, do I do another Hammer movie? I go, no, I can't do it because the ones I really want to watch are directed by Terence Fisher, but I don't want to do another director thing like I did before. So I kind of went through with another 50s movie, but from one of the most famous directors of all time. And I decided to go with Blood Orange, Alfred Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder.
Andrew's over there clapping.
Nicely done.
I love this movie, and of course, before my 3D TV died, I watched it in 3D quite a lot. And
same here.
It looked amazing in 3D. This with House of Wax. I believe that Warner's released this at the same time. Brilliant. The 3D transfers look fantastic. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, it's basically a husband hires a hitman to murder his wife because the wife is cheating on him, having an affair. But the way this story goes, it's slow paced. Not that it's a slow movie, but the tension it gets so high with this film. And of course, Ray Milland, you can't go wrong. He was great. And of course, the beautiful Grace Kelly here, she looks stunning in this film, I've got to say. But to me, one character rarely gets talked about, but he is incredible in this film, is portrayed by John Williams, not the composer, another John Williams. He plays the detective who's on the case for the attempted murder of Grace Kelly. He stole the show for me. I thought because his character infused Hitchcock's trademark wit, one-liners, but of course, this movie has some of the greatest tension-filled halfway points of the movie as well, which is fantastic. But yeah, Ray Milland, Grace Kelly, Robert Cummings as the lover, they great cast, and of course John Williams, fantastic performer as well. But yeah, with this one, I thought with Blood Orange, this one would work well because it's kind of like a whodunit, but it was set in the same era, and yeah. I thought that was my choice.
Yeah, you had to pick like I said before, you had to pick something that was a heavy hitter to make up for like the B picture. And, you did at the beginning. So you would play this second in a double feature, right? Or
usually, the funniest thing is, from my experiences in double features, theatrically and at home, the second film is actually better than the first. That's my experience. Like when I saw I went to a double feature of The Wicker Man and as well as The Blood and Satan's Claw, I believe. They had like a late night session a long time ago in Sydney. But they played The Wicker Man last because that's how it was back in the day. And, and I thought, yeah, The Wicker Man was way better. Like I love Blood and Satan's Claw and of course Don't Look Now because that was the original double feature. Don't Look Now, then The Wicker Man. But to me, The Wicker Man was a better film. But in my experience in watching double features, usually the second film is a little bit better. And I thought, yeah, do it that way.
Yeah. Sounds good to me, man. You gotta. I'm not saying it was a bad movie, but sometimes you gotta be like, come on, we got through it.
Yeah.
And then now, okay, now we know. Now we got our, like, we got a cheeseburger. We can go through. So.
Yeah, it went from a B picture to an A picture with Alfred Hitchcock. Which is interesting, that Dial M for Murder. I always feel like it's the Grace Kelly Hitchcock movie that gets talked about the least.
It is,
even though people know
that's
it,
true.
and it's been parodied and satired in satirized in pop culture so much. But it's always like, obviously, Rare Window and To Catch a Thief, I think, are the two bigger ones that people kind of, I think, go to more frequently, talk about more frequently, all this kind of stuff. And Dial M for Murder kind of is known, but it's just not as talked about as much. And I too remember when that exact Blu-ray came out, that 3D Blu-ray. That was when 3D made its comeback again in the early 2010s, late 2000s, with 3D TVs and 3D theatrical exhibitions. And they started putting out like older movies that were originally in 3D, like you said, House of Wax, and Dial M for Murder. But they also put out 3D Blu-ray of Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff like that. And they still actually put out 3D versions of movies to this day. It's just they're like 10 years after that the format's kind of gone. The TVs are gone, the players are kind of gone. They don't theatrically really do them that much anymore. Maybe an IMAX 3D screening. That whole format's kind of gone, but like I've said it so many times, it comes and goes every couple of decades. Like it was in the 50s, kind of went away, came back in the 80s, kind of went away, came back in the late 2000s because of Avatar, really brought it back to the forefront because the movie made billions of dollars.
Great.
And then the studios were like, we got to jump on this craze. We're going to start re-putting out all of our old movies in 3D. Jurassic Park in 3D. We're going to put out Titanic in 3D because who doesn't want to see that boat go down in your face? It's not traumatizing enough. Who knows?
I believe this week, because Jaws celebrating its 50th year this year, 50th anniversary, this week is a theatrical release worldwide, I believe, which also has 3D. I thought, Jaws in 3D, I don't know if that will work, but
they did do it. Didn't they do
they did the third one, yeah.
Yeah,
the third one in 3D, and that looked awful.
Same thing with Friday the 13th Part 3. I think is also in 3D. You can even they even came with the anaglyph glasses in the Blu-ray, case, and you can watch it on your TV. So yeah, it's 3D is such an interesting gimmicky craze that doesn't ever seem to quite go away fully. But it's also part of like film history. But the way Hitchcock shot that is fascinating. Like the set design was made specifically like with distance in mind and stuff like that, because it was all old school stuff. They didn't really have the 3D cameras like they had now. I'm even thinking of Wim Wenders' film Pina, which was in 3D, put out by Criterion. And he did a whole movie of just dance sequences in 3D. That came out in like 2014, I think, somewhere like that, somewhere in that range. But yeah, it's just interesting that craze comes and goes.
Yeah,
it is. Well, I think 3D is coming back in December again. For Avatar: Fire and Ash. I think they're going to be doing.
Well, if James Cameron wants something, he'll get it. I think we've learned that by this point.
I don't know. He's owned by Disney now, so it's a little bit different situation. But all right. Well, we got our first double feature matched up here. Now we're going to move over to Andrew.
Indeed.
Tell us what you're matching with
so
that war horse. Come on,
This was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. Just because when I was looking up a lot of lists, they were just giving me other Steven Spielberg films to pair with it. And I'm like, yeah, you could do that, but it's not really quite the way to do this here. Then they were giving me other war films in general. And I'm like, oh, also you can kind of do that because 2/3 of War Horse is a war film. And so I could have gone with like 1917. I could have gone with All Quiet on the Western Front, either one, the newer one. Heck, there's one in the 70s and there's one in the early 30s too, the classic one that won Best Picture. But I wanted to go with something a little bit different. And what is interesting is before I even watched War Horse, just knowing the premise of it, this was the movie that I thought of. And this is the movie EO, The film that came out a couple of years ago, it came out in 2022, but didn't get a theatrical release, at least here in the US, until January of 2023. And this movie is similar to Warhorse in the sense that you're following the life or the existential journey of a donkey rather than a horse. And he's not going through wartime or anything like that. He's just kind of making his way through like European life, really, or just like humanity in general. And he's kind of witnessing and going through the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the fantastical of just, a journey through life, really. Because life is a series of ups and downs, left and rights, and circles, and good and bad, and all that kind of stuff. And this movie's kind of told entirely from the perspective of this donkey, as you see here on the front. And this movie is incredibly emotional, but different than Spielberg's kind of version of emotion that we were just talking about, because Spielberg's version of emotion is manufactured through like scenes and setups and all this kinds of stuff. The John Williams score dictates things. We were just talking about all this, as opposed to this movie where it feels so much more natural, that he's just experiencing the natural world of life, of all of the people he meets along the way of his journey. For those of you who don't know, this movie starts off, he is a donkey in a circus and kind of like part of the circus act. And I forget how he kind of escapes that situation, gets separated from that situation. But then the rest of the movie is just him meeting various people along the way. And there's some really beautiful, magical movie moments in this that are really philosophically deep on such a visual level. It's really hard to explain without you actually seeing this movie. And once again, for me, like I said, with my sensitivities towards animals in peril or in any type of dangerous situation, the ending, I don't want to say the ending of this movie, the ending of this movie kind of just ends and it kind of hits like a ton of bricks. So the ending of this movie always kind of really rocks me. I don't know. I felt incredibly emotional while watching this. It was one of my favorite movies the year it came out, which would have been 2023. And Criterion put this out through their Janus Contemporaries release line, which is now, Criterion Premieres. They just switched it up recently, but this was like part of like their first crop of Janus Contemporary releases. And with these releases, similar to kind of what they did with Eclipse, you just pretty much get the movie and you get like one special feature, but it is newer movies, so they're going to look good because they're brand new productions, brand new masters. You don't kind of go digging for them; they're just there. But what's really cool about this line is that they're kind of like showcasing movies that probably wouldn't make it on disc in any other way but this way, because these movies are so, they're in the indie realm. I mean, they only play at, a minuscule amount of theaters. They don't get a big, theatrical release. They don't get a big, PVOD release and premium video on demand release. So it's nice that these movies are getting this release. And this is by a director who I really didn't know anything about, but apparently he's been working in the industry for like over 40 years. And that's Jerzy Skolimowski, who I believe is a Polish filmmaker, I want to say. And yeah, it made me want to go back and watch some of his movies, because apparently he's also a very good filmmaker, and his movies tend to be incredibly deep and thought-provoking and, harsh in terms of like certain dramatical elements and whatnot, because this movie definitely isn't, it's not a Disney movie of an anthropomorphic donkey going on a journey. It's a little bit different than that. You know what I mean? But I decided to pick that because of that, and it gives me a chance to kind of highlight this movie. And it was an Academy Award nominee for Best International Feature as well. I remember that. I was pulling for it to win, but I don't think it did. I think it was All Quiet on the Western Front, which I almost chose. I think that's the one that may have won that year. So yeah, I chose EO.
Yeah, I remember when it came out and people were talking about it all the time, man. And I never got around to watching it. But I feel like I should now. So send that to me in the mail so I can watch it. I'm just kidding. Okay. Tony, have you seen it?
I have seen EO, but my biggest regret was, as Andrew said, there's sensitivity to animals and all that, and I thought, I don't know if I can do this one. I wanted to watch on the big screen, but to my biggest regret, I didn't do it. So I ended up waiting physical on Blu-ray, and it's a beautiful movie. And as you said, the ending, oh man, it just ends like that, but it does hit you like a ton of bricks, as you said.
Yeah,
But
it's like a Sopranos cut to black ending.
yeah,
It really is.
absolutely.
To where like you
But
don't know what's going to happen, and you're just left there, just looking at a blank screen.
yeah, like I thought EO was a beautiful film, but yeah, to my constant regret, it's one of the films I should have seen theatrically, but yeah, I thought it was a mesmerizing movie, especially that donkey. Oh my goodness, it's amazing how animal performers, they're great. How they do it is incredible. Animal trainers, they don't get enough praise. Highly recommend. They did great work.
And let's not guess. Next thing you know, we're going to start getting campaigns for that being an Academy Award.
Why not? Why not?
Best animal performances, like
Yeah.
But all right. Well, another double feature for you guys out there. You got the War Horse and EO. And so now, before I get into my pairing, I meant to show this off. I do have my Satyajit Rai shirt on.
Oh, nice.
Him smoking a cigarette. It's like the only shirt I could find of him. Nobody has. I'm gonna have to make one for our new store. I'm gonna have to come up with a Satyajit Rai shirt because he needs more shirts. But so, as you know me. Yeah, I'm always trying to come up typically with something that feels like thematically fits the other film. So I did try to stay in that realm, but I was also able to. This was actually pretty hard. I really wrestled around with a few films on this, and nothing really was feeling good. And then in the last 2 days, I finally came up with something I felt really good about. And it's a movie I hadn't visited in a long time. I had to try to rewatch it. But it reminded me how good it was. Like I was like, God damn, this movie's good. And it's beautiful, and it really fits as a pairing with this, because I think one of the central things about Home in the World, our lead, is this innocent person who is, getting to experience something in the world for the first time, and dealing with like a political activist that's, really using that innocence to, and in this film that I'm pairing it with, we also have a female at the center that witnesses something at an innocent age, and then kind of her decision with that information creates consequences that kind of change the shape of a couple people's lives. And that is the film Atonement.
Ooh.
Joe Wright's Atonement. This film, of course, is set in World War II. We actually get Dunkirk in this film. I think, pretty awesomely, visualized in this film. But kind of gives Christopher Nolan a run for his money. The kind of shot they go through in this film when they get on the Dunkirk beach. But in the film Atonement, you have Keira Knightley, who is like the dog, rich family. And she has her and her sister, played by Saoirse Ronan, which I think this was a pretty early role of hers. And then James McAvoy plays kind of like a handyman, works for the family, lives on the property, and has kind of always, been around the family for years. And so what happens is that Keira Knightley and James McAvoy start to get kind of feelings for each other. And Saoirse Ronan, who's the younger sister, kind of she's innocent. She doesn't know a lot about sex and, sexual things. She witnesses things out of context that she thinks maybe James McAvoy sexually assaulted her sister. And also this other girl that visits on a kind of a dinner that they have. And so with that accusation, she then basically gets him arrested. Then he has to go to war and gets separated from, of course, Keira Knightley, who's they're having a budding, love affair. And so this film really explores that idea of your actions have consequences. You can't just, you shouldn't just out of not knowing everything about something, because there's more to her. She kind of has a crush on James McAvoy, so her choice to do it is a little bit selfish because she feels a little bit, but that her crush was taken away from her sister. Little things like that. So but there's so many. I think it fits as a pairing with Home in the World because it is really about an impressionable young woman who makes a choice. And in Home in the World, she makes a choice. She does all these things, cheats on her husband, and then there's a thing that happens at the end of Home in the World that I'm not gonna divulge, but that there's consequences. And this, I think Atonement takes that film and kind of broaden it. We talk about how big the ideas are in Home in the World. Well, they scale in Atonement. It's scaled. Like you go outside of that house, you see the war, you go, it's not just like political activism. It's a war that starts and that one of our characters gets thrown into. And so does Keira Knightley. She's a nurse. She gets kind of caught up in it as well. And so a lot of what this, I think, just really matches. It's not perfect fit in the sense of how events happen, of course, but I feel like it's a really nice fit when it comes to the situation they're in, the time period. And then of course you have the Indian perspective, the Bengali perspective. And then of course they're talking about how the British are influencing their culture. Well, in this film in Atonement, it's British culture. So you kind of have an interesting reflection there of two different stories that are similar, but in their different opposite cultures. So yeah, that's what I got. Andrew, you watched Home in the World and you watched Atonement. So
yeah, Atonement. I remember when Atonement came out. Excuse me. That was around the time, that would have been 2007, 2008. Yeah, that was coincidentally around the time where I started to pay more attention to the award season and critics and the Oscars and stuff like that. I remember that season very, very much. I remember watching Atonement probably on DVD at the time. What a heavy movie. Yeah. That movie still hits people very hard to this day because of the drama, because of the romance, because of the kind of epic sweepingness of it that's in the movie. Like you're saying, dealing with World War II.
It feels like an old-fashioned movie. It really does. It feels like an old school romance.
And it's very much in the vein of, I don't know if I don't want to, actually I can bring this up now because this was your pairing, like The English Patient, something like that. You know what I mean? That type of level of storybook romance with complications. This was the movie that definitely put Saoirse Ronan on the map. She was super young in the movie. I think she was a teenager. She got nominated for an Oscar for this film. A bunch of people you'll notice in it, like Juno Temple's in this film as well.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch, who was also in The War Horse as well. Which is fascinating how much he showed up over the last so many years and just random roles. But yeah, I remember Atonement, even to this day, when the movie kind of hits, when you think about the movie kind of hits, you take a breath, you're like, wow, that's a movie. Because, without spoiling it, you think of the end and you think of the lead up, you think of all this kind of stuff. And it was one of those movies I saw at the age of probably 20, maybe 21. Around that time, just starting to get into more serious, dramatic films at that youngish age. So seeing this, and I think other movies from that year were Michael Clayton and things like that. So it was really kind of my coming of age of more dramatic, more critically acclaimed, serious cinema. And Atonement was very much part of it. I think I also have Atonement, the book as well, because it's based off of a book by Ian McEwan, I think is the author's name.
Ian McEwan,
yeah. So I remember that. So that's a really interesting pairing for the Satyajit Ray film.
Yeah, I mean, there is a romance in both films, but it kind of introverts it in Atonement, where the romance takes the forefront over political activism. It's
right. It's more of internal political stuff, because you didn't even mention that the James McAvoy character is of a lower class.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a class structure that gets explored more than political in this. So there is somewhat of that that reflects on each other. And there's class in Home in the World because he's rich, and the people that are the landowner that's rich, he actually, his perspective, he doesn't agree with his friend who's a political activist, and he looks at the idea of taking out all foreign imports as being harmful to the lower class people.
Yeah, because it would harm them economically, financially. Yeah. It would make their lives incredibly more difficult.
Because it would be
he's
more
thinking
expensive.
Things on a more macro level.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is definitely a lot of themes that cross over nicely. They're just looked at in different ways. And so, yeah, I just, when I thought of this film, I was like, oh man, it's really works. And I think, it was just nice to watch Atonement again because it is so great. James McAvoy is so good in this movie. Like it upsets me that he didn't get really any recognition on like, I think he should have been nominated for this movie. He was so good. Supporting actor, at least. Like,
yeah, and this was an early role for him too. This was before
Wanted was coming out.
Yeah, but this was before any of his
Narnia
X-Men movies.
Narnia.
Before any of that. Yeah. I think Narnia was before this, wasn't it? Wasn't he the first Narnia movie? Wasn't he Tumnus? That was like 2004.
Yeah.
We're going to be getting more of those soon, so hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, any thoughts?
Please.
Nah, I saw Atonement theatrically as well in 2007. 2007 was a great year for film. Like, as you said,
was There Will Be Blood out there? Is that
There Will Be Blood? No Country for Old Men, Atonement, Michael Clayton, as you said. It was just great year, but it was a tough one. But with Atonement, Joe Wright was in a peak era at the time. Like, he worked with Keira Knightley multiple times as well. Pride and Prejudice was their first collaboration. Then I think Atonement was their second.
Yeah.
And then third, and I believe it was their last collaboration, was that, hate to say it, unwatchable version of Anna Karenina. That version I did not like. I'm sorry.
What's interesting is that's a movie that I've almost chosen so many times for the Unwatched Pile. Coincidentally.
Yeah, look, it has its audience. It does have its audience, but I'm not one of them. Give me Greta Garbo's Anna Karenina any day. But this one, yeah, it didn't work. But Joe Wright has a specific style of direction, which I've always noticed, especially with Atonement, and his cast is great. Saoirse Ronan, I hated that little bitch. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that, but the character, I know, she did a great role. Deserved her Oscar nomination, hands down. But her character, my God, what a vindictive little snake she was. But no, I really liked her performance. But to me, the love story of Keira Knightley and James McAvoy, I wouldn't call that over sentimental, but it worked. It worked with this type of film.
I see what you're trying to get. It is like I said, this is why I feel like it's an old fashioned romance movie.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of setup for their romance. It's more you have to go with the fact that there's history there.
Yeah.
They've grown up near each other, and then the story kind of just kind of goes into their romance. And you start to get different perspectives on it too. You get Saoirse Ronan's perspective on how that romance is, and you got their perspective, and so you get kind of thrown up into it. But as quickly as you're into it, it gets taken away, and so it's like almost hard for people. And I've had this problem with some older films, like hard to like understand like people falling in love that quickly. But you have to just fill it in with your imagination that they've known each other for years. So, and it's young, they're young and they're, hormones and they're, so it all makes sense, especially when you're living in a posh, not a lot of people around. They're living on an estate. They're all, they're bored. They're standing out there just laying in the lawn, just don't know what to do with themselves. So, but yeah, I loved it, and just the visuals in this film. Like, it's just amazingly shot film. But that is it. That is it for this installment of the Unwatched Pile. We've done it. I feel good. I feel good that I ticked another film off my ever growing list of I take one off, I add 3 more. So, whenever I buy something, actually, I've been pretty good lately. I haven't been buying as much blind stuff. I've been mostly getting things that I've seen. So that feels pretty good. But,
yeah.
Well, Tony, thanks once again for joining us.
Once again, thank you both for having me on. It's a pleasure. And anytime you'd like me back on, let me know. Absolutely.
We got you, man. You're in the rotation, man, for sure.
Okay.
And of course, as always, subscribe to check out Tony's podcast, Imprint Cast. They do that over there. He's, as he said, teased earlier, he's got a new one coming out soon. So check and follow them on Facebook, follow them on all their social media, subscribe to their audio podcast. Of course, Chasing Labels. You got the audio version, of course, as well on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Got a new Chasing Labels next Monday, so watch out for that. And I think we got a new Movies Down Memory Lane coming up as well. And yep, that is it for this installment. What are you still doing here?
Watch the movies on the.
What are you doing? Yeah. God. How can you just listen to this whole thing without not wanting to just go to your Unwatched Pile and just buy?
True.